I'd like to call to order the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education regular public meeting, May 30th, 2019. Mrs. Saradaki, will you please call the roll? Mrs. Bauer? Here. Mrs. Boroff? Here. Mrs. Brody? Here. Dr. Clancy?
Here.
Mrs. Soriani?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Here.
Ms. Winkler?
Here.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Here.
Quorum is present. Thank you, Ms. Saradaki. Please join us in the salute to the flag. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And thanks for coming out tonight in this wicked weather. All right. So prior to coming into public, we had our executive session, and during that time, we spoke about the personnel agenda, the HIB report, the suspension and detention report, and legal status report. We have some additions to the agenda. 1S, out-of-district placement. 12 BUS, a bid for custodial supplies for 2019-2020 revised. 13 BUS, bid for electrical supplies 2019-2020 revised. And 23 BUS, disposal, sale of equipment, updated list. Now, the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices at 512 Cedar Street, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Such notice was also provided in written notice and forwarded to the Times, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, and the annual notice of regularly scheduled meeting as adopted March 29, 2018. Next, we'll have our instructional update.
So it is has become our annual tradition to celebrate and thank our PTA leaders for all of their service to our district. And we are thrilled tonight to have many of them here so that we can congratulate and thank them in person. And so I'm going to turn the meeting over to Karen to help us handle that celebration and recognition.
Okay, first, we'd like to call up Regina Gannon, Scotch Plains Fanwood PTA Council President. And Regina Gannon is in her second year as PTA Council President. Regina, thank you for all you do, leading all of our PTA leaders and communicating with the Board of Ed. We appreciate all that you do.
And I just want to add that I've had a great pleasure and honor to work with Regina this year in her first year as president of the PTA Council. She's been there every step of the way with me, and it's just been a wonderfully productive year under your leadership, so thank you.
And you are continuing.
Yes. It's part of the transition plan.
Next, Tracy Leone, President, Brenner Elementary School, PTA.
Hello, come on up. And we have Scott Bortnick here to support his PTA president. So, Scott, you want to share a few words with us?
Tracy is also in her first year.
Also coming back next year.
Yay!
My son's going to dig it.
Oh, okay. And we know how much work you do for the elementary PTA presidency and all what you do for the school, for the children and the teachers, and we greatly appreciate all you have done.
Thank you.
And continue to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Sue. Sue, help me out here.
Say Borkland, Appizado, whichever one you want to call it. Go by
Borkland. Sue Borkland, Evergreen Elementary School PTA President. And Sue. Thank you. Sue is in her first year, and you're continuing next year?
I'm back.
Yay! All right. Thank you for taking on the commitment and continuing to serve Evergreen. Okay. Next, we have Debbie Fitzgerald, President of the School One Elementary PTA. And Debbie, you are in your first year, right? Oh, wow. And I came from School One with my son and the PTA, so I know how it is over there. It's lots of work, but lots of fun. Fun fair tomorrow.
Fun fair tomorrow.
Let's hope the weather holds up. Yeah. All right.
Finally,
Thank
the
you.
weather
Next
will be
year?
good.
What?
Next year too? All right. Say yes. And last but certainly not least, Dawn Smith, President, Park Middle School PTA. I also came from there, so I also know how that is, and it's a wonderful PTA. Lots of exciting things always go on at Park, so thank you for serving. And this is your second year.
It's my second year, but I think I've been at the PTA the entire 5 years my kids.
Oh, wow.
So, my youngest is graduating next month, so I'll be living with him.
Oh, wow.
It's around.
I know, but thank you for all your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, thank you. Well, those are only 5 of the 8 PTA presidents that could come out tonight. Others had commitments or illness, and plus the weather, so I applaud those who did come out to be here, and they will be getting their items at another time.
Thank you.
Thank
you. And thank you to your children who've come to accompany you tonight. Thank you. Because we know that you give up your moms when they have to go to all those meetings, right? And so we really appreciate the fact that you share them with us.
And do you go to those meetings with your mom and sit there and wait? Either of you? Yeah, okay. Yeah, my son did that too. So. Well, thank you so much for coming
you
tonight.
very
too.
much.
Thank you all.
And we won't be
Can
offended.
we all come together for a
Pat's
little picture?
here?
Come right up in the
Yes.
front and bring your certificate and have a nice photo op. You just come right in here, please. Yes, you could bring your son too. Yes. Oh, that's why we're here. Your sons can come with you. That's why we're here.
He's still young enough. They're still young enough to be interested in the picture, I think.
Awesome.
Okay. Very cool.
Only the camera.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, then we'll move on to the public portion of the meeting. In accordance with Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools Bylaw 01640165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comment, maximum 2 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. When you approach the podium, please state your name and the town in which you reside. Don't all come at once. Okay. Seeing no one, we'll move on. Committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report? Ms. Winkler?
Of a shared services report. We met on May 16th. We talked about the Police Athletic League Cops and Kids program. They said it went really well, that they're hoping to expand it with more dates next year. We had 2 dates at Park and 2 dates at Terrell this year, so they're hoping that they can get additional dates in and maybe start earlier, like in the winter time when it's less likely the kids will be running around outside. Other programs that they do, like the PAL athletic leagues and MAC programs they're involved with, are all in the planning stages for the coming year. Things are moving along. Next item on our agenda was computer training for the senior citizens in the community. The program went really well. It was well received, and will be continued again next year. The Board of Ed, we updated them that about the turf fields being replaced over the summer, and possibly installing conduits for future electric for lighting for the fields, possibly down the line. We'll see. But we told them that we were interested in looking into that. And the police came back with us. They were concerned about parking, student parking. They expressed concern about the student parking seems to be spreading further and further out, or expanding, I should say, as it's not moving further from the school, it's just expanding. And they wanted to look into alternatives, possibly putting in an additional parking lot somewhere. So, yeah.
Not on my watch.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will see. But one thing, at least I wasn't aware of previously, was that aside from the school issuing parking permits for our students, the police departments are also issuing parking permits. So students have gone to them as well. So now we're going to try to coordinate with them a little better, and maybe we can rein it in a little if we'll figure it out. We're looking at it. There was a bit of discussion about school property tax distribution. Fanwood is going through the revaluation process. Scotch Plains, I think, is also going through revaluation process. There were some questions about how that would affect the school budget, but I don't see how that would affect the school budget, really. It's just a matter of how the distribution within the town gets paid. There was an update, the Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Task Force. Both Scotch Plains and Fanwood have passed their resolutions in support of this task force. They're waiting on us. So I know we have been working to put our resolution in order. So hopefully we'll be looking at that soon.
Yes.
And then our next meeting will be September 19th. We take a break for the summer. And that's about it. Recommendations for action are just to finalize our resolution for the Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Task Force and investigate parking solutions with the police departments and look into whether we're going to contemplate a parking lot or try to rein in the on-street parking in some way.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Any other committee reports?
I have one.
Ms. Broden?
Community Relations Committee met on May 23rd, and we have made some progress. We're going to have a new website be online as of August 1st. It'll be fresh and icon-rich and very communicative. It will also have links on there to social media, such as our SPF Proud Twitter page, and we're looking into a Facebook page. Dr. Mass sent a questionnaire to staff and parents looking for feedback. And to date, we've had 140-something responses, and over 90% of those responses were parents, which was very nice to see. It was all very good feedback. It wasn't like tearing the thing apart. It was really very helpful feedback. And some of the things that we learned from that was a lot of people only visit the website occasionally, but when they do, they use their smartphone or the computer pretty equally between the two. And when they go there, they they look for information on school news, school or district news, which is all the things that we talked about putting on the website. A lot of them would really like to have a smartphone app as well. That was very positive feedback on that. And most of the respondents, they want to learn about extracurricular arts and athletics, and they go there, they want more information on the school culture and environment. So it's really right up what we wanted to do. And most people wanted icons instead of the wording of the links. So that was all very positive. And that was for the most part. But as of today, it was 92% are parents, and only 8% were staff that responded, which was really nice. So that's in the process. What I need from the Board of Ed members is to think about what they would like on the Board of Ed pages.
Are we going to get to do the survey?
Oh.
I didn't get one.
That's a good point.
Okay.
We will follow up
Could you
with
handle
the board, yes.
Okay. So with that, you can give me feedback in there too. But, just let us know what kind of information you'd want there.
Who did do the survey?
Dr. Madison and
I mean, who was it sent to?
Parents and staff.
It was,
All
it was,
parents?
It was posted on the district. It was
Okay.
posted on the district website and the school sites, and the
Gotcha.
principals notified the parents in the schools.
So I guess
Thank
you
you.
didn't get it. Or
saw
did
it.
you see it? You may
I
not.
filled it
Well, I
out.
guess I would have.
Was it sent out yesterday or today?
No. When was it, Dr. Mass, when was it sent out? What day?
It's like a week and a half ago.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe could we send it to everybody? Thank you.
Yeah.
We're also the administrative office is going to move to a person dedicated to help with the communication with the public and the staff, and Dr. Mass and Robin Broadbent will work very closely with that person.
Robin?
As Broadbent.
Broadbent, okay.
Let's see what else. We are ordering name tags, but we need pictures for those name tags. So if everybody can provide some kind of little headshot picture.
For a name tag?
Why don't we just get IDs?
Or you can
I'm
stop
wearing
by
the
and
name
Pat will
tag.
take your picture.
It's got my face. My actual face.
Well,
And the name
glamour
tag.
photo so it doesn't look like me.
Who should we, Deb, who should we send that to?
I would say probably send it to me. I'll collect them because Dr. Mass is going to get them printed for us.
And Mrs. Herodaki also gives the option of stopping by the business office to get your picture taken, and it will just give you the school ID,
Right.
you know, with the blue lanyard, so it will
Oh.
be clear that
Right.
you're,
we'll be
you're
official.
representing
Will be official, yes. So when we go to events that are not our home school, you're not going to necessarily, even if you're going there for your child, you might not want to wear it, but if you're going to a different school, then you can wear it. So we are identified as Board of Ed members. And next year, for the beginning of the school year, we did pass out a list of events not too long ago, but we'll have one, we'll put it on Google Drive, and then that way board members can sign up for events they want to go to, because they might not be aware of everything that's going on within the whole district. So we're making moves on that, though, as well. And that's it. for
I
now.
liked your report with all the graphics in it.
Yeah, I
Very
sent, yeah.
Easy to read. Thank
Yeah,
you.
to give you a little idea. And so it keeps, changing daily.
I like it.
Thank you.
Any questions? No? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brody. Any other reports? Oh, Dr. Clancy.
I just wanted to encourage residents of Scotch Plains to continue to go to the website, the Affordable Housing Community Advisory Committee, and the township continues to post information about the plans for the housing developments in our in Scotch Plains. So I'm just encouraging people to keep up with all the news that's on the Scotch Plains Township website. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clancy. Anybody else? Okay, then moving right along, letters to the board. One LET, email dated May 24th from Mr. and Mrs. Ricardo Diaz regarding lacrosse balls damaging the fence and making their backyard unsafe while teams are playing games or practicing. And Mrs. Sardaki, did you respond, or?
We're in the process of looking into it to find out what we can do to stop the problem and
Great.
to.
Thank you for looking into that. And then that brings us to the superintendent report, Dr. Hayes.
Thank you. Tonight, I would ask that the board approve the out-of-district placements as noted on the agenda. Under 1S, we have two cases. One is a placement for the out-of-district placement that is revised for the 2018-19 school year because the student requires an out-of-district therapeutic educational placement. And the second one is transportation will be made available for a student who will be attending Honor Ridge Academy.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
2S, I would ask that the Board of Ed affirm the superintendent's decision in the HIB case that was reported during executive session on May 9th, 2019. This was case 065-1819-16.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you. 3S, excuse me, I would ask that the board approve the additional 2019 extended school year placements as indicated on the agenda.
I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any no? Motion carries.
Thank you. 5S, I would ask that the board approve the curriculum matrix for the 2019-2020 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Roll call.
But we need a second before we can vote.
seconded.
Mrs. Saradaki, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Suriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams? Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. And 7S, I would ask that the board approve submission of the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools Comprehensive Equity Plan for 2019 through 2022, as presented at our last meeting on May 9th. I've not received any questions or feedback regarding it, and so with this approval, we will be able to submit it to the New Jersey Department of Education.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or question?
I just want to thank everybody who served on that committee. Jean was there. Thank you very much for your time, and Tanya was part of that committee as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, and I would ask that the board approve the personnel agenda as reviewed in exec this evening.
So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Sarah Daggy, will you please call the
I
roll?
did not catch your name. Deb?
Deb.
Okay. Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Suriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Thank you, Ms. Saradaki. In accordance with the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools Bylaw 0164-0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments, maximum of 2 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. When you approach the podium, please state your name and the town in which you reside. Seeing no one, we'll move on. Business functions, Mrs. Saradaki?
Yes, I'd like to group these if nobody has
Please
any
do.
objection. 1BUS, I'm asking the board to approve the superintendent's recommendations for staff training reimbursement as indicated on the May 30th, 2019 report. 2BUS, I'd like the board to acknowledge receipt of disbursement listings for various bank accounts for the month of April 2019. 3BUS, I'd like the board to acknowledge receipt of the district's security and fire drill reports for the month of April 2019. 4BUS, we have a couple, the ESY related service vendors for 2019, total amount of $144,900. 5BUS, we have a contract renewal with Steros Esme for 2018-19. The past service, which we've received in the past, has no increase. The amount is $2,595 for next year. We'd also like to add to that the district online and public access online services for an annual fee of $2,090. That is so they actually provide the web space. It's linked to our website, and they'll maintain the online policy manual, so you can just click on individual policies. And the initial setup fee for that is $1,995. 6BUS, I'd like the board to approve RAS Technologies as Power School consultant at a cost of $13,000 for the school year, and that's no increase. 7BUS, I'd like the board to approve the designation of the following bank official depositories for the 2019-2020 school year. It's all TD Bank. There's no changes from any of the prior years, from last year, for all of our bank accounts. 8BUS was approved on May 9th. 9BUS, I'd like the board to approve Food Service Management Company for 2019-20. We only received one bid, and that is Pomptonian. And I did send this out to other companies, but we did not receive a response. And the cost increase is minimal. It was 0.0507, I think, last year. I'd have to go back and look. It's about a 3% increase. 10BUS, I'd like the board to approve the bid award for athletic reconditioning for 2019-20. We only received one bid, and that is the company that we used this past year also, Stadium Systems, and from my understanding, they are working well with the pickups and drop-offs of equipment. And that amount is $7,494.90. 11BUS, I'd like the board to approve the bid award for the Park Masonry Restoration Project. We opened 4 bids on May 23rd, and as you can see, the low bid, Ascari Construction, was not fully compliant with the bid specifications. So we'd like to go with the second lowest bidder at $579,000 for the masonry work on Park Middle School. 12BUS is award for custodial supplies for 2019-20 school year. We only list the awarded amount here because the bidders in these cases don't bid on every item. So we list the amount we're going to actually purchase from the bidder. 13BUS is the same type of bid for the electrical supplies. And that would be going to Cooper. It used to be Cooper Electrical. It's now Cooper Friedman Electrical Supply in Monroe, $26,426.42. 14BUS was approved on May 9th. 15BUS, I'm asking the board to acknowledge receipt of the board secretary report, treasurer of school funds report, and budget adjustments for the month of April 2019. 16 BUS, I'm asking the board to approve bills for the period of April 23rd through May 28th, 2019, in the amount of $5,214,509.80. 17, 18, and 19 BUS were all approved on May 9th. 20 BUS, I'm asking the board to approve heating and cooling units for the multipurpose room, the rooftop units, for Brunner, Coles, and Evergreen School. The total amount would be $272,946. This is under the Ed Data contract number 9195. 21 BUS and 22 BUS were both approved on May 9th. 23 BUS, we have a list of a combination of technology equipment and some nurses' office equipment from the high school that we would like to list on the GovDeals website for sale. My understanding is it's all the medical examination chair hasn't even been opened up in years. It's very old. And I assume all of the printers and such are past their life. 24 BUS, I'd like the board to approve purchase of custodial supplies in the amount of $174,427.78 from Atra Janitorial Supply. These are through the Ed Data bid number 8846 and 8847, and this will be for 2019-2020 supplies will be taken out of next year's operating fund. And 25 BUS, asking for the board's approval on the facilities applications for temporary instructional space and toilet room facilities for early intervention, pre-K, kindergarten classrooms for 2019-20.
So moved. Thank you. We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Any questions?
I had a question about number 20. I always like to know how close are we getting to, this is the cooling units, the heating and cooling units for the multipurpose room. How close are we getting to, like, district-wide air conditioning?
Oh, we have a little ways to go.
Still a little way. No, I know we're plodding along, but.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're like 3/4 by now, you think?
No.
No. Okay. Well, let's keep.
Our elementary schools, this will make all of our elementary schools equal. The elementary schools, their media center is are air conditioned, their gyms, and this will make their multi-purpose rooms.
Okay.
And they also have their kindergarten rooms, for the most part, air conditioned. But the rest of the school in the elementaries, other than School 1, which is fully air conditioned.
And Brunner's second floor, right?
Yeah, Brunner's, the second floors in the district are all done.
Okay.
So,
No, I know
but we also need to do some on Terrell.
Yeah.
So, their new wing, their cafeteria is done, their auditorium, their second floor.
Thank you.
But they still have the balance of the first floor, so
Okay.
we're making progress.
Yeah, no, and you try to have us do it in a fiscally what's
Try.
the word? Responsible way. So we do bit by bit. So, okay.
I have a question. Could you explain what 25 BUS is with those? I know that you do this every year, I think, right? But
Yes.
what exactly is it? It's very ominous sounding when you read
Temporary instructional facilities. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. At the two middle schools, it's the modular classrooms, because those are not supposed to be permanent. Those are temporary.
Temporary for the last
10 years. Well,
To the point where we put new siding on one of them last year.
maybe closer to 13 or 12 or 13.
What happens at the end of 10 years?
No.
They won't approve the application anymore?
We just keep putting in for renewal of temporary facilities.
No,
It just alerts them to that we have those because they don't last as long as a building.
Okay, so there's no time frame that they'll continue to approve the application?
No,
Okay.
we just have to submit their temporary facilities. The space at Brunner is because some of the rooms are not as large as they're supposed to be for preschool, because we don't have that many kindergarten-sized classrooms to have all our kindergartens and all our preschools in the kindergarten-sized classrooms. And the toilet room facilities, through kindergarten, they're supposed to have toilet room facilities within the classroom. And so anything that's outside of the classroom, you have to put in and state how the students are being escorted and where, how, basically, whether it's right outside the classroom in the hallway or down the hall, you have to give that, provide that information to the state.
All right, thank you.
And so, and this is anticipated for next year. When we review it, once the classrooms are actually set, you may see a modification or two, depending on where we actually place kindergarten and preschool students.
And I have a question of number 12 and 24. They both say custodial supplies. What's the difference?
24 are the supplies that we were able to find on the Ed Data bid.
Okay.
The earlier one were supplies that weren't on the bid, and so we bid for them separately on our own.
Thank you, Mrs. Saradaki. Anybody else with any questions or comments?
I had a comment. I just wanted to say that I'm very excited to see the move to Strauss Esme's online policy. As someone who's gone to our district website looking for specific policies occasionally, what a bear. Oh my. It's not easy to navigate. It's just, this is going to just be so much nicer.
And it's actually searchable. So if you put in a word, you can search to find any policy that has
That's
that word in
fantastic.
it. So.
That's great.
Much better than flipping through pages upon pages of PDF to find what I'm looking for. So that's going to be great. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, we had a motion, we had a second, we've had questions and discussion. Anything else? If not, then can I have anybody who's in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Saradaki. And that brings us to policies, Mrs.
Speaking of
Weinberg.
policy. Okay, well, I'd like to start by moving that the board approve second and final reading for adoption of the following policies. Policy 5330.04, administering an opioid antidote, and the corresponding regulation for that. These are both new. Bylaw 0132, executive authority. Bylaw 0141, board member number and term. Bylaw 0143, board member election and appointment. Bylaw 0151, organization meeting. And Bylaw 0153, annual appointments. Anyone want to
We
second
had
that?
the
Second.
motion, second, thank you. Any discussion or question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Excellent. And then I'd like to move that the board approve for first reading the following board policies. I'll list them and then I'll go into some detail about them. Bylaw 0167, public participation in board meetings. Bylaw 0168, recording board meetings. Policy 2468, independent educational evaluations. Policy 3124, employment contract. Policy 4124, employment contract. Policy 3282, use of social networking sites for the teaching staff. And Policy 4282, use of social networking sites for support staff. Policy 3324, right of privacy, teaching staff members. And Policy 4324, right of privacy for support staff members. Policy 4125, employment of support staff members. Policy and Regulations 4281, inappropriate staff conduct. Policy 6511, direct deposit. Policy 7481, unmanned aircraft system, also known as drones. Policy 7522, school district provided technology devices to staff members. And policy 7523, school district provided technology devices to students. So some information about some of these things. Bylaw 0167, public participation in board meetings, has been revised concerning the public's participation. The Strauss-Esme bylaw guide suggests a minimum of 3 minutes per speaker if a limit is established for a public statement. We had been going by 2, so we're gonna change that. It seems that 3 is more standard for most districts. What else? A recommended manner for the presiding officer to address questions from the public that are directed to another board member, and a recommended approach for a presiding officer to deal with a member of the public making statements that are too lengthy, abusive, obscene, or defamatory. Bylaw 0168, recording of board meetings, has been revised concerning members of the public video and audio recording public board meetings. The revised policy requires prior notice from a member of the public who wants to record a public meeting from an area other than the area designated for public seating. The provisions of the bylaw and these updates are consistent with several court cases that have addressed the public's right to record public meetings. And then the policies. Policy 2468, independent educational evaluations, is new. Strauss-Esme recommended to have this policy so staff and parents can be guided regarding the process of obtaining independent educational evaluations when requested and warranted. Policy 3124, employment contract, is being revised. In addition to updated citation changes at the bottom of the policy, a few additional revisions are proposed here. An updated policy providing additional guidance regarding termination of a contract by the board or a teaching staff member. The updated policy indicates the employment contract will include a termination provision unless the staff member is represented by a collective bargaining agreement that already has a termination provision. Termination of employment for tenured staff members is governed by statute, so it will be in accordance with those appropriate statutes. Policy 4124, employment contract. This policy is being revised to include a probationary employment provision. The revised policy indicates employment contract may include a probationary employment period for newly hired staff members. This is not a mandated policy, but Strauss-Esme is recommending that this policy be adopted as it contains important provisions regarding contract termination by either party, maximum length of contract, other information that should be included in non-tenured support staff employment contracts, particularly fixed-term contract provision that avoids janitorial staff receiving statutory tenure if not appointed for a fixed term. Scotch Plains Fanwood does appoint custodians for fixed terms, and their negotiated agreement does provide tenure after 3 years of continuous service. This should clarify the rules and regulations around termination as needed, and include appropriate notice. Moving on, policy 3248 and 3282 and 4282 regarding the use of social networking sites for the first for teaching staff and the second for support staff are 2 new policies. I'm sorry. I'm losing my place here. regarding the expectations for staff use of social media, such as carefully reviewing privacy settings on social media sites, adhering to district workplace standards on harassment, student relationships, confidentiality, and that sort of stuff. Policy 3324 and 4324 on the right of privacy for teaching staff members and support staff members is also new. And were created for staff to understand parameters regarding their expectations around the right of privacy related to the use of district facilities and property. For example, what they keep in their bag versus what they keep in, say, a district desk. These policies, the social networking and the right of privacy, are policies that were inadvertently missed in our switchover from the old policy manual to the Strauss-Esme format that we've been using. So they're new to us. They're not new based on new statutes or anything like that. Policy 4125, employment of support staff members. This one is mandatory, mandated these changes. This policy has been rewritten. Terms and conditions of employment that are usually negotiated into a collective bargaining agreement or included in an individual contract between the board and the staff member have been removed from this policy. Nepotism restrictions have also been removed, and instead references are made to our nepotism policy. In addition, some detailed requirements of the criminal history record check process have been deleted and are incorporated by referencing the statute, since these details often change, and this will prevent the need for minor policy revisions in the future. Moving along. Policy and Regulations 4281, inappropriate staff conduct. Policy and Regulation 4281 have minor changes that do not substantively change the content. Citation changes were updated. References to Director of Personnel and Staff Development have been changed to Director of Human Resources. References to the Division of Youth and Family Services was changed to the New Jersey Department of Children and Families. That's pretty much it for that one. Policy 6511, direct deposit. This is new for us. In accordance with the New Jersey statutes 5214 through 15H. This new policy proposes that in the event that the board chooses to implement a mandatory direct deposit program, the board will annually adopt a resolution designating the school district's banking institution that shall be used and any employee group or category that would be exempt from the requirement. Policy 7481, unmanned aircraft systems, also known as drones. This policy is, of course, new, and it's a suggested policy. It's not mandated. Unmanned aircraft systems, or drones, the operation of these drones is regulated by the FAA. This policy prohibits the operation of drones and or flying of unmanned aircraft systems on or over school grounds at all times. However, the policy provides the board the option to permit contracted use of drones for board-approved purposes with documentation supporting the contractor's compliance with FAA regulations and proof of adequate insurance coverage as determined by the board upon consultation with the board's insurance and legal experts. Policy also provides the board an option for use of a school district-owned drone for purposes approved by the superintendent or designee. This option also requires special insurance requirements, as school district insurance policies typically exclude coverage for drones. In light of the FAA regulations not yet being finalized and any potential state or local laws that may be eventually approved for the use of drones as they become more prevalent, the policy indicates any approved use requires a contractor or the school district to comply with all FAA regulations and any state and local laws. And it doesn't obviously specify them, as they don't really exist now. Policy 7522 and 7523, school district provided technology devices for staff members and students. This is also new for us. This guidance should be provided to staff and students and will be complemented by our procedures related to acceptable use agreements. It's pretty basic: keeping food and drinks away from devices, don't leave them unattended in unsecured locations, what to do if you think it's stolen or in the event that it gets broken. It's pretty what you would expect it to say. So that's a lot, but that's our policies. That's the policy update.
Okay, thank you for that. And is there a second? Second. Second, Mrs. Williams. Any questions or discussion for Mrs. Winkler? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Done with policy then for tonight? Yes?
Yes.
New board business. Is there any new board business?
I probably have a workshop report.
Okay, that's in a minute.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that's other board business.
Other board business, requests to attend workshops. Okay, now, workshop reports. Mrs. Borough.
Well, that was my first one. So Dr. Mastin actually went to the Special Education Symposium back in March. May.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was really interesting. I really wanted to go just to familiarize myself a little bit with what's, I don't know a lot about special ed, but I thought it was really interesting. The overall sort of theme was focused on everything from compliance to IEPs and whether they're measurable and capacity to monitor them and transparency, inclusive options. They gave us some examples of some districts that were taking on a more fully inclusive and how it was affecting their income and their budget. We touched base on dyslexia and teacher training, funding and budgeting, obviously. It was a really interesting. I think that the one thing that I took out of it, there was one course that I took, one of the sessions by Matthew Korobkin, and it was just getting to effectiveness, the special education transformation approach, how your district can improve student outcomes and build procedural compliance. Unfortunately, I only got one copy, but I will have it handy. But basically, his sort of preface or premise was that the RDA, which is the results-driven accountability, that a framework has been created for that, and along with a Supreme Court recent ruling, and I have the case name, but requires establishing more ambitious and challenging IEPs. And so it was sort of a message to school districts, and I'm not saying in any way that any district needs it, but what the focus is sort of shifting from being solely in compliance to also a measurement of effectiveness. And so I thought it was just interesting listening and hearing from the other members and the board members about the status of their special ed programs and what was sort of going on in the district, across the state. With such continuous changes going on, we know. So it's just a really interesting meeting, and I have a lot of the notes here if anybody wants to check them out and stuff. I don't know if you had anything to add.
Thank you, Mrs. Borough.
It was a really good opportunity to go and to hear, in fact, what other districts are doing and grappling with, and certainly in special ed. We're always putting our best foot forward for those kids, but it's always helpful to examine our practice as well. It was good to have that opportunity to have the day to talk with Mrs. Borough about special ed. So.
Thank you, Dr. Mast. Anybody else? No other reports? Mrs. Bauer.
So Mrs. Winkler and Mrs. Williams and Dr. Mast and I were at the Garden State Coalition of Schools annual meeting yesterday. Yesterday, and it's always really interesting because they have interesting speakers. So the Commissioner of Education was there. He was the first one to speak, and I just picked out a few things that he wanted to highlight. He wanted to highlight that this is the second year in a row that there has been some increased funding for education, even though it's nowhere near meeting the formula, but that this is the right trend. He talked about preschool education, increased graduation rates, decreased absenteeism, decreasing decreasing classifications for special ed, diversifying the teacher workforce. He certainly talked about the fact that New Jersey is number 2 in the country in terms of education in general and specific areas. He talked about the myth of that people have that education is either the source of or can be the solver of all of society's problems. And so that's a good reminder, I think, for everyone that schools, people have to take care of problems in society, others besides just schools. And then he also talked about dual enrollments and continuing the CTEs, and emphasized, of course, student learning. And then the First Lady of the state, Tammy Murphy, spoke next. She really emphasized the arts and the environment, and talked about teachers being the heroes among us. And then, that the overall goal for education is not just reading, writing, and math, but producing good citizens. So that's what she had to say in general. And then they had a panel, and John Mooney from New Jersey Spotlight was the moderator, and had 2 superintendents who are officers in Garden State, Kathy Goldenberg, who's from the State Board of Ed, and then a state assemblyman and a state assemblywoman, both Republicans, both from the 13th District. And I'll highlight a few things, and then you all can jump in with other things that made an impression. They talked about special ed increases. Special ed was a big topic during the whole discussion, I would say. That and the legislators were saying that there's common agreement that it would really help all districts and support for that, but then again, there's a money issue. Just as I think it's interesting for people to note, because it often comes up about doing referendums, and one of the officers from Hillsborough, I knew their referendum did not pass, but they had 25% of their voters turn out, which was a high number, and they lost the referendum 60 to 40%. So kind of shows the mood for referendums. Other districts had similar experiences. There was certainly discussion back to special ed about the fact that the special schools have no caps, while we do have caps. So that was brought up really to remind the legislators, I think, primarily. And also the superintendents were making the point about unintended consequences to various kinds of decisions the legislators make, one of those being the anti-bullying law. They think it sounds good, and then so I think the long and the short of it is that it was good. My impression was that the legislators who were there we're certainly interested and willing to have. One of the good things about Garden State and that they commented on is getting not just, I won't say complaints, but concerns, but that Garden State also comes with solutions and ideas of ways to solve those problems, so that they're very interested in that piece. There's certainly, at least among the legislators there, no sense that the 2% cap would change. But there was some discussion about, this was one of the suggestions one of the superintendents made, that maybe, the referendum that passed in the fall that gave all the money to essentially the VOTEX, but it included some security funding, didn't include any funding for really social emotional kinds of, when you think of school security, talking about the fact that it should include social emotional learning as well, and that the referendum did not do that. So some thought about maybe that if the 2% cap is not going to change and that wasn't included in the referendum, maybe it could be a waiver or something, So there were discussions related to that. And then
Looking through my notes. That's pretty comprehensive.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, that's pretty good.
There was some discussion about the affordable housing in different communities and how it affects different communities differently. Some of the things that some of these people said really just, they're so not connected to reality. But yeah, well, there seemed to be a lot of legislators who were there. Mila J.C. was also supposed to have come. I guess she would have been the one Democratic legislator there. So they do usually try to get opinions from both sides of the aisle on these things. So it was a little lopsided in that sense that she was not present. But the legislators who were there were receptive to the things that the educators were telling them about what they experienced within their districts, and they said that there's no appetite for raising the cap in the legislature, so we're kind of stuck with this 2% cap, but they do seem to be recognizing that costs like special ed costs, like Nancy said, that special ed was a large part of the discussion, is that these costs are just rising astronomically, and they seem to realize that we're kind of stuck. We want to do right by all of our students. We certainly don't want to be cutting corners on special ed. They realize that we're just in a bad situation, and that something needs to be done. If they can't give us relief on the 2% cap, they're going to have to find ways to either increase extraordinary aid or do something else. And so they are talking about coming to the table to have these discussions. So that's good anyway. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes these discussions.
I do see that they mentioned that the first Wednesday of the month is when the state board meets. So if anybody wants to go, the first Wednesday of the month, she highlighted that. And I did want to point out that one of the things they did is pay tribute to Dr. Hayes at the meeting, and the fact that she had contributed so much over all these years participating in Garden State, and thanked her for her intelligence, her humor, her insights that she had shared with so many across the district board members and other superintendents. So.
Yeah, I couldn't be there.
I know. I'm sorry you weren't there, too.
Because Karen and I were with our teachers who were being honored for the Governor Educator of the Year Award at Kane University yesterday at the same time. So I don't know if Karen wants to speak to that.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Yeah, it was lovely. It was held at Kane University in the STEM building, the brand-new, beautiful STEM building, and all the nominated governor educator teachers were there with their superintendent and their board president or designee. And we had a lovely breakfast, and then we were moved into the auditorium, and we saw a couple of short, newly made videos about Kane and all the development that's going on. And then the speakers all, commended all the wonderful teachers who were nominated and were recognized as the educators by the governor. And then the last year's Teacher of the Year from 2018-2019 was one of the keynote speakers there. And she was up on stage with a wonderful speech, Ms. Jennifer Scomiel, and she was the New Jersey State Teacher of the Year 2018-2019. And all of the teachers received a lovely certificate in a very nice frame, and they were brought up on stage and taken as a group photo. And then, we had some refreshment after that, and then we were outside, and it was just a lovely morning. Such wonderful people were there from all the different schools, from across all the towns and boroughs in Union County. And it was sponsored by the Union County Superintendent's Roundtable. And some of the freeholders were there, and it was just a wonderful morning. And I was so happy to be able to go with Dr. Hayes and these 8 wonderful teachers from our district. Would you like me to read their names?
Sure.
I know we recognize them, but I so wanted to mention them because I got to speak with them all, and they were such a great group of people. We had Amy Berlant, Margaret Brown, Christine Donnelly, Tracy Gallen, Jordan Gray, Tara Mann, Charity Morris, and Amy Rakowski. For any other events attended or meetings attended? Okay. All right. Then
There was one that we attended last night.
Oh, right. I was going to say for the
School
good
one?
of the order, but the school one had their choral and music concert last night, and it was emotional for me, one, because that was Aiden's last concert, and Mrs. Shapiro is retiring. And her speech and the slideshow was so moving that I had a tear, and my son looked over, and he was like, "Are you crying?" So I was, because Mrs. Shapiro actually taught my 24-year-old.
And my 27-year-old.
Right. So Mr. Rio had nice things to say. It was beautiful. It was a nice concert, and she's awesome, so she's going to be missed.
Yes, she will be. Thank you for sharing.
The finale song was the swan song, literally. Right?
Yes.
How about that?
I'd love to see that video.
It was cute.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Williams. Thank you, Dr. Mast. So 2 OBB, buses for project graduation. I have a motion.
So moved.
And
Second.
Please read it then, whoever made the first motion.
Oh. Thank you. We move that the Board of Education accepts the donation of 7 dorm buses to be used to transport high school seniors to Project Graduation 2019 at the Shimon and Sarah Birnbaum Jewish Community Center, 775 Talamini Road in Bridgewater, New Jersey, 08807, departing the high school on Thursday, June 20th at 10 o'clock p.m. and returning on Friday, June 21st at 2019 at approximately 5 o'clock a.m., and further authorizes payment of $300 for each of the 7 bus drivers, totaling $2,100.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. So we had a motion and we had a second. Any question or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Next, we have approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from April 11th and 25th both executive and open agenda meetings and regular board meetings. Thank you, Mrs. Brody. I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mrs. Winkler. Thank you. Any questions, discussions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any noes?
I have to abstain from April 11th.
April 11th, Mrs. Dr. Clancy.
I abstain as well from April 11th.
Thank you, Mrs. Soriani. Okay. All those in favor then were aye. Motion carries. Excuse me? What? Say it.
Nothing. Seriously, nothing.
Okay. So we had, everybody said aye, abstain, or nobody said no, so the motion carries. Bringing us to the last public session, in accordance with Scotch Plains Fanwood Public School Bylaw 0164-0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comment. Maximum 2 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. When you come to the podium, please state your name and the town in which you reside. Seeing no one, we'll move to the good of the order. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order? Mrs. Winkler.
I have two things for the good of the order. Last week, I had the pleasure of attending the spring choral concert. No, band concert, right? The choral concert was the week before. I attended all of those things. I attended the choral concert, was wonderful. The band concert was wonderful. It's great to it's just great to see our kids performing, and they do a nice job. The teachers do a good job of pulling it all together and getting
where
good
are the
sounds out of
concerts?
them. At the high school.
At the high school.
What else? And then last night I had the pleasure of attending the senior awards night at the high school, which was long. I'm going to make a suggestion now that we have an intermission somewhere in the middle there. It's hard to sit that long, but it was good. It was nice to see these kids, a lot of them being recognized for all kinds of different things, and it's just a nice group of kids. So it was a nice night. It's lovely that the community comes together with all of these different scholarships for all kinds of different things, and it was just a nice evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Anyone else? Bauer, go ahead.
I was just going to say the retirement event was really nice yesterday, and thank Mrs. Kane for both organizing one last one while she's also retiring. And it was lovely, and I think people appreciated being recognized for years of service as well.
20, 25, 30 years of service, in addition to the long list of retirees. And it was wonderful. It was a great event. And so many of the previously retired faculty and staff had come back to give well wishes to those currently retiring, which was lovely.
Yeah.
And the PTA for donating all the refreshments, the water, the cookies, the fruit, the veggie platters. It was just very nice. Anybody else?
Okay.
Ms. Soriano?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago I attended the Coles Art Show, and I know all the elementary schools have recently had their art shows, so I just want to give kudos to all the students who spend so much time during the course of the year, and it's in line with our strategic plan, integrating the arts and into other content areas, and in particular for Coles, Ms. Riley staged the show so nicely. It was really a very nice event, so I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Ms. Soriano.
To piggyback on that, if you look around the room today, and Mr. Ritter, we have examples of some of that arts integration that went on this year in terms of our zoology class and art. And I think the curriculum committee is going to be getting an update on that.
Yes, the artwork that you see here, along with some STEAM integrations at each level, the elementary, middle, and high school.
I noticed it was some new art today. I figured so late in the year, and we still have all this new and wonderful artwork. I particularly like that beehive one there, the honeycomb, and I mean, they're all so good. You can't see everything that's even in the back or the side of the room, and the birds and the little tree there. It's always nice every other week when we come for another meeting to see something new.
And lastly, I just wanted to thank the PTA publicly because last night one of the scholarships that was awarded was in my honor. Yes, so, very nice.
That was very thoughtful. Okay, if there is no other comment for the good of the order, then can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you. Second. Any discussion? It was Debbie. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Nobody's going to say no. No abstentions. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night. Safe ride home.
Yes, sir.